I never cared much for spas. The idea of paying someone to knead my back like dough never appealed to me. I wasn't the type to sit in dimly lit rooms, listening to the sound of trickling water while scented oils soaked into my skin. That kind of thing had always seemed pointless, a luxury for people who had nothing better to do with their time. But the past few weeks have been brutal. Work was a pressure cooker, deadlines coming in like waves on a sinking ship, and I was carrying the weight of it all on my shoulders, my back, my neck. No matter how much I stretched, no matter how hot the showers or how stiff the drinks, the tension refused to leave. I woke up every morning feeling like someone had poured cement between my shoulder blades. Emily, my wife, had been talking up this spa she went to. She raved about it like it was a religious experience, always mentioning how amazing she felt afterward, how Elias had some kind of magic touch. Elias. She said his name a lot, not in a way that raised alarms at first. I mean, I wasn't the jealous type, not really, but there was something about the way she said it, offhandedly, yet frequently enough for me to remember. She would come home looking loose, refreshed, her skin glowing. And every time I asked how her session was, her response was always the same. So relaxing. You should go. She'd been pushing the idea on me for a while. Most times I brushed it off, telling her massages weren't my thing. But after another night of tossing and turning, my back throbbing like I'd been hit by a truck, I figured I had nothing to lose. The next morning, after she left for work, I finally gave in and called the place. The receptionist answered on the second ring, her voice syrupy sweet. "Thank you for calling Serenity Spa. How can I assist you today?" I told her I wanted to book a massage for the weekend. She immediately launched into a spiel about their different treatments, deep tissue, hot stone, aromatherapy, listing them off like I was picking from a gourmet menu. I almost cut her off, but something stopped me. "Actually," I said, my wife comes there regularly. Emily Caldwell. I'd like to book with the same therapist she sees." There was a brief pause, not long enough to be suspicious. Just a small, almost imperceptible hesitation. "Of course," she said, typing away. "Emily usually books with Elias. I can put you down for a session with him this Saturday at noon." I nodded to myself, already making a mental note. "That works." She continued typing, her nails clicking against the keyboard. "Emily's next appointment is on Wednesday, but we'll get you in for the weekend." That's when something in my brain locked onto a detail I hadn't been looking for. "Wednesday?" I repeated. "Yes, she comes in every Wednesday." That didn't sit right with me. Emily always framed her spa days as solo, personal time for her to unwind, yet something about the way the receptionist phrased it made my stomach tighten. I forced my voice to stay casual. "She always goes alone, right?" Another pause. A second too long this time. "She has standing appointments with another guest." "Yes," the receptionist finally said, her tone carefully neutral. "Would you like to book a couple session as well?" I barely heard the last part. "Another guest." I sat up in my chair, gripping the phone a little tighter. My pulse thudded in my ears. "Who's the other guest?" I asked, keeping my voice calm, steady. "I'm afraid I can't disclose that information." Of course, she couldn't, but she didn't have to. I ended the call without another word, my heart pounding against my ribs. I stared at the blank wall in front of me, my mind suddenly racing through the past few months, fitting together pieces of a puzzle I hadn't even known I was assembling. The extra time at the gym, the way she'd been paying more attention to her appearance, more than usual, the showers the second she got home, the glowing, refreshed look on her face every single Wednesday night. I hadn't noticed it before, or maybe I had, and I just didn't want to. But now, I had every reason to pay attention. And come Saturday, I'd get my answers, one way or another. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Every hour between that phone call and my appointment felt like slow torture, my thoughts running in circles, each scenario worse than the last. I went about my days like normal, but inside, something had shifted. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a man on the edge of discovering something I already knew in my gut, but wasn't ready to admit. Emily, of course, had no idea. She went about her routine like nothing had changed. She still kissed me in the mornings before heading out, still texted me casually throughout the day, still curled up next to me on the couch in the evenings, as if she hadn't been tangled up in someone else's hands just hours before. That thought alone made my stomach turn. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed proof, something undeniable. Because if I accused her now, she'd spin it, call me paranoid, make me feel like I was the one losing my mind. No, I needed something solid. And that's what I planned to get at the spa. Saturday arrived, and I left the house without a word. Emily was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she made coffee. She smiled at me over her mug. "Where you off to?" she asked. I smiled back, keeping it light. "Figured I'd finally take your advice and get a massage." Her eyebrows lifted in pleasant surprise. "Oh, you'll love it. It's the best." "I bet it is," I thought bitterly. She took a sip of her coffee, not even flinching, not a single hint of worry in her expression. Either she was a damn good liar, or she genuinely believed I wouldn't put two and two together. I gave her a quick nod and walked out, my fingers gripping the steering wheel tight as I drove across town. Serenity Spa was as pretentious as I expected. An upscale wellness retreat nestled between a row of boutiques, promising pure relaxation and stress-free living in its perfectly curated ads. I walked through the glass doors and was immediately hit by the scent of lavender and eucalyptus. Soft music played in the background, the kind that was supposed to make you feel at peace. It did the opposite for me. The receptionist, a young woman with a sleek ponytail and an air of practiced serenity, greeted me with a professional smile. "Mr. Caldwell?" she asked. I nodded. She tapped at her screen, then glanced up. "First time here?" "Yeah." Her fingers moved across the keyboard. "You're booked for a deep tissue session with Elias. He's excellent. Your wife has been seeing him for months." I forced a tight smile. "So I've heard." She turned the screen slightly and gestured for me to sign the digital form. That's when I saw it, the appointment schedule. I didn't mean to glance. I really didn't. But the second I saw Emily's name, my eyes locked onto it. There she was, every Wednesday like clockwork. But that wasn't what made my pulse spike. It was the name next to hers. Daniel Montgomery. My jaw tightened. I didn't know a Daniel Montgomery. He wasn't a family friend. He wasn't a co-worker. He wasn't anyone I had ever heard her mention before. And yet, there he was booked alongside her. Every single time. The receptionist followed my gaze and quickly turned the screen back toward her. Her expression remained neutral, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Awareness. She knew I had seen it. My stomach burned with the confirmation I hadn't wanted. "Right this way," she said smoothly, as if nothing had happened. I followed her down a dimly lit hallway, my footsteps feeling heavier with every step. The massage room was everything you'd expect. Soft lighting, a plush table, candles flickering in the corners. Elias, the infamous therapist, greeted me with a warm handshake, his grip firm. He was a tall man, mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. He had the kind of presence that made you feel like you were in capable hands. Under any other circumstances, I might have respected him. But right now, all I could think about was how he'd spent the last few months running his hands over my wife. I lay down on the table, face pressed into the cradle, fists clenched at my sides. The session began, his hands expertly working through the knots in my back. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was a slow, creeping rage. Because while he was doing his job, I was stuck thinking about Daniel Montgomery. Who the hell was he? Why hadn't Emily ever mentioned him? And more importantly, how long had she been lying to me? By the time I left the spa, I wasn't just angry. I was furious. I didn't need to guess anymore. I didn't need to wonder. Emily had been cheating on me. The only thing left to do now was figure out what the hell I was going to do about it. I drove home with my hands locked so tight around the steering wheel that my knuckles ached. My mind was a storm, a raging mess of questions and accusations that had no answers yet. Daniel Montgomery. That name was carved into my brain now, sitting there like a thorn just beneath the surface of my skin. Every time I blinked, I saw it, right next to Emily's name on that damn schedule, week after week. I had gone in expecting to confirm a suspicion, but instead, I walked out with something far worse. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It wasn't some impulsive lapse in judgment. This was routine, planned, ongoing, and that made me sick. The ride home. The streets blurred past me as I drove, my thoughts spinning in directions I couldn't control. I wasn't sure what hit me harder, the fact that Emily had been lying to me, or the fact that she had been so good at it. She had been walking around, sleeping in our bed, smiling at me like nothing was wrong, all while she was sneaking off to her weekly wellness sessions with some mystery man. I gritted my teeth, so hard my jaw hurt. I wanted to turn the car around, go straight back to that spa, and demand to know who the hell Daniel Montgomery was. But what would that accomplish? They weren't going to tell me anything. The receptionist had already made it clear that privacy was their policy. No, I needed to play this smart. If I confronted her now, she'd lie. She'd twist it, make me seem like the paranoid husband jumping to conclusions. And right now, I didn't just want answers. I wanted the truth to punch her in the face so hard she couldn't deny it. Walking into a lie. When I pulled into the driveway, Emily's car was already parked out front. She was home. Good. I walked inside, my body stiff, my mind still tangled in knots. The scent of something cooking filled the air: rosemary, garlic, butter. She was making one of my favorite meals. How ironic. Emily stood at the stove, her back to me, humming softly as she stirred something in a pan. She looked so normal, so innocent, like a woman who had spent the day relaxing, waiting for her husband to come home so they could enjoy a nice Saturday night together. The sight of her made my stomach churn. She turned when she heard me walk in, a bright smile on her face. "Hey, babe," she said cheerfully, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "How was your massage?" I stared at her for a long moment, trying to decide what I wanted to say. Every ounce of me screamed to rip into her, to tell her exactly what I had seen, to demand an explanation. But I didn't. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I forced a casual shrug. It was all right. Her eyes flickered over me, searching for something. Maybe she expected me to gush about it, to say what a great recommendation it was. "Well," she said, turning back to the stove, "I told you you'd love it. Elias is amazing." I swallowed down the bitterness in my throat. Yeah, Elias is great. I walked over to the counter, watching her as she moved around the kitchen. I studied everything. The way she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. The way she reached for the salt without looking. The way she carried herself with absolutely no guilt. How long had she been lying to me like this? How many times had she come home from those sessions, kissed me, eaten dinner with me, slept next to me, knowing damn well she had just spent the afternoon with another man? My nails dug into my palm. This wasn't the woman I married. This was someone else entirely. Someone I didn't know anymore. Laying the trap. I needed to be patient. That was the hardest part. I wanted to explode, to slam my fists on the counter, and demand she tell me who Daniel Montgomery was. But I knew that if I pushed too soon, she'd deny everything. No, I had to do this right. So I played along. I ate dinner like everything was normal. I laughed at her stories. I even kissed her goodnight. But as soon as she fell asleep, I grabbed my phone and started digging. If I was going to destroy her lies, I needed to start with one thing. Who the hell was Daniel Montgomery? The search begins. I sat in the dark living room, the glow of my phone screen illuminating my face as I searched for the name. I started with social media: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I scrolled through dozens of profiles, scanning faces, ages, locations. There were plenty of Daniel Montgomerys, but none that stood out. Nothing that tied them to Emily. But I wasn't stupid. Cheaters weren't dumb. They covered their tracks. They used fake names, fake accounts, burner phones. This wasn't going to be easy. I switched tactics, pulling up our phone bill instead. If Emily was seeing this guy every week, they were talking, texting, meeting up outside of the spa. And sure enough, there it was. A number I didn't recognize. Text messages. Calls. Every single Wednesday. The pattern was obvious. It was him. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. My thumb hovered over the number, the temptation to call it right then, and they're almost unbearable. But I stopped myself. No, not yet. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. Emily had been playing this game for a long time. She thought she was clever, thought she was getting away with it. She had no idea that her little secret was about to come crashing down around her. And I was going to make damn sure she never saw it coming. Sleep was out of the question. I sat in the dark living room long after I found the number, my thoughts tangled in a storm of anger and calculation. The evidence was there. right in front of me. A number she had been texting, calling, week after week, the same days she went to the spa. It wasn't a coincidence. I wanted to wake her up right then, shove the phone in her face, and demand to know who the hell Daniel Montgomery was. But that would give her an easy way out: denial, fake tears, some pathetic excuse that she thought I was stupid enough to believe. No, I wasn't giving her that chance. I was going to catch her. Not just in some vague, I have a phone record kind of way. I wanted her trapped, backed into a corner with no way to twist the truth. So I sat there in the silence, mapping out exactly how I was going to ruin her web of lies. Digging deeper. First, I saved the number. Not under some obvious name like Daniel Montgomery, because I wasn't an idiot. I needed to be subtle. So I labeled it as something harmless. Dr. Phillips, dentist. Then I went to WhatsApp. Bingo. The number was linked to an account. No profile picture, but the status read, available. That meant the number was active. Not some throwaway, not a spam line. A real number used by a real person. I clicked on the chat window. The option to start a conversation was right there. I hesitated. A part of me wanted to send something, anything to see if he'd respond. Maybe pretend to be Emily, just to see what kind of reaction I'd get. But no, that was risky. If he smelled something off, he'd warn her, and she'd start covering her tracks even better. I needed to be patient. Instead, I moved to our phone bill records. The texts weren't there, which meant she was using an app to talk to him. WhatsApp, maybe Snapchat, something encrypted. But the calls? Those were listed. Some short, some over half an hour long. And not just on Wednesdays. There were other calls scattered throughout the weeks. That made my stomach burn. It wasn't just a weekly fling. It was more than that. This wasn't a random hookup she barely cared about. She was talking to this guy, regularly, planting the seeds of doubt. By the time the first streaks of sunlight crawled across the room, I had a plan. I wasn't going to accuse her outright. I was going to watch her squirm, make her wonder, make her feel like something was off, even if she couldn't figure out why. So I played it normal. When Emily woke up, stretching in that lazy way she always did, I was already in the kitchen, pouring coffee. She smiled at me as she walked in, still wearing my t-shirt from the night before. "Morning," she murmured, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. I barely stopped myself from flinching. She had no idea that I knew she had been lying to my face, smiling at me while keeping secrets. I forced a casual tone. "Sleep well. Like a baby." She yawned, letting go of me to pour her own coffee. Yeah." I took a sip, watching her over the rim of my mug. "Had some weird dreams, though." She gave me a lazy smile. "Yeah." I let a small pause hang in the air before I said it. "Had a dream you were seeing someone named Daniel." The mug froze halfway to her lips. "Gotcha." It was brief. Barely a flicker of hesitation before she recovered. Her expression smooth again, playful even. She let out a soft laugh. "Daniel? That's random." I shrugged. "Weird, right?" Just popped in my head. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, but she played it well. Too well. She took a sip, then smirked. "You getting jealous of people in your dreams now?" I forced a chuckle. "Guess so." She shook her head and leaned against the counter. Must have been all that tension getting worked out at the spa. Oh, she was good. She slid the conversation right back to my massage, steering it away from the name that had momentarily rattled her. But I saw it. I saw that hesitation. She knew exactly who I was talking about, and that meant I was right, setting the stage for the fall. The rest of the weekend was normal, at least on the surface. Emily didn't act suspicious. She didn't change her routine. If anything, she was too normal. Like she was making sure there was nothing for me to be concerned about. But I saw through it, and I was already 5 steps ahead. By Sunday night, I had a new plan. If Emily was meeting Daniel at the spa, I needed to see it with my own eyes. No more guessing. No more suspicion. I needed hard proof. So when Monday morning rolled around, I faked a cough. Let my voice sound a little scratchy. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to make it believable. Emily glanced up from her coffee. "You okay?" I sniffed. "Think I'm coming down with something. Might take a sick day Wednesday." I didn't miss the way her fingers tensed slightly around the handle of her mug. Wednesday. Her spa day. She recovered quickly, though, giving me a sympathetic look. "I'll poor baby. Hopefully it's just allergies." I nodded, forcing a tired sigh. Yeah, might just lay low. She smiled. Good idea. I bet she thought she was so safe. That I'd be at home, none the wiser, while she went off to whatever appointment she actually had. But what she didn't know, what she would never see coming, was that when she walked into that spa on Wednesday, I was going to be watching. And when I saw what I needed to see, when I had undeniable proof of what she was doing, there would be no more lies, no more denials, no more excuses, just the truth. And then I'd burn it all down. Wednesday came faster than I expected. I spent the first half of the day playing my role, sick husband, resting at home. I made sure to cough a little when Emily passed through the kitchen, made a show of staying wrapped in a blanket on the couch. She kissed my forehead before leaving, her fingers cool against my skin. Feel better, she murmured. I almost laughed. She had no idea. I waited exactly 15 minutes after she left before I got up, grabbed my keys, and headed out. The stakeout. I parked across the street from Serenity Spa, just far enough that I wouldn't be noticed, but close enough to keep an eye on the entrance. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my jaw locked so tight it ached. She had no clue I was watching. 20 minutes later, Emily's car pulled into the lot. She parked like she always did, straight and careful, then climbed out. She looked perfect, hair in loose waves, wearing those leggings she always said were just for workouts, but I'd noticed she never actually wore them to the gym. A bag slung over her shoulder. Light steps. Casual. Like this was just another Wednesday. She walked through the doors without hesitation. No nervous glances. No signs of guilt. She wasn't meeting some fling in a back alley. Wasn't sneaking into a motel room. No, this was routine. A part of her normal life. That was what made me sick. She wasn't just cheating. She was comfortable with it. And I was about to shatter that comfort into a million goddamn pieces. Waiting for him. I sat there, watching. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. And then, there he was. A man pulled into the parking lot in a sleek black BMW, parking 2 spots away from Emily's car. Tall, athletic build, dark hair, mid-30s, maybe early 40s. He was dressed too nicely for a workout, but not formal enough for work. A man who wanted to look good, but not like he was trying too hard. He stepped out, glanced around, not suspiciously, just naturally. Then he walked inside. I had him. The final confirmation. My pulse thundered in my ears as I stared at the spa entrance. I could still turn back, could still drive away and pretend I didn't see any of this. But I wasn't that man anymore. So I climbed out of the car, slammed the door shut, and walked straight into the spa. The receptionist looked up as I entered, her professional smile faltering slightly when she recognized me. She wasn't expecting me back so soon. I leaned casually against the counter. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice light. "Got a quick question." She blinked. "Of course." I glanced at the appointment book. "My wife's here, right?" Emily Caldwell. Her lips parted slightly, caught off guard, before she forced her expression back into a polite mask. Yes, but she's in a session." "With Daniel Montgomery?" I cut in smoothly. Her breath hitched. "Gotcha." I saw it. The tiny flicker of panic before she recovered, pressing her hands together like she was trying to hold onto her professionalism. "I'm sorry, but we can't disclose." "I already know," I said. "I saw the schedule last time I was here. I just wanted to confirm." She swallowed, hesitating. That was all the confirmation I needed. I nodded, pushing off the counter. That's all I needed to hear. "Have a nice day." And with that, I walked out. I didn't need to see them. Didn't need to storm into the room and make a scene. Because the truth was already mine. Emily had been sleeping with another man. And now, it was just a matter of how I was going to destroy her world. The plan. I didn't go home right away. I parked a few blocks down, gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing. Confronting her wasn't enough. She had gotten away with this for too long. Lied to my face, played the perfect wife while sneaking off every week to be with another man. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling. The dread, the humiliation, the moment where the truth crashed down, where she realized she had lost everything. So I started planning. I wasn't going to tell her immediately. Let her keep lying. Let her think she was safe. I was going to gather more proof. Phone records, messages, anything that could corner her. I was going to expose her at the worst possible moment. Not in private. No quiet, shameful confession. Public, brutal, unforgiving. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to ruin her. And the best part? She wouldn't see it coming. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my mind was crystal clear. I had seen enough. I had proof. Emily was meeting another man at the spa, week after week, pretending she was just getting a massage while she was actually tangled up in something I could only imagine in the worst ways possible. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. If I walked into our house right now and told her what I knew, she'd twist it. She'd turn on the fake tears, tell me it was just a misunderstanding, spin a story so convoluted that I'd almost doubt myself. No, she was going to keep lying to me. She was going to keep digging herself deeper. And when I was ready, when I had enough evidence to crush her beneath the weight of her own betrayal, I'd watch her entire world crumble. Gathering the pieces, I forced myself to drive away from the spa, gripping the wheel like I was holding onto my sanity. I needed more. More proof, more solid confirmation that she couldn't wiggle her way out of. I started with her phone records. I still had access to our shared phone plan, something she had never thought to hide. The moment I got home, I pulled up the call log on my laptop. There it was, Daniel Montgomery's number, again and again and again. Every Wednesday, every damn week. Some calls were short, quick confirmations, maybe. Others lasted nearly an hour. An hour. What the hell were they talking about for an hour? I scrolled through the records, my stomach turning. She had called him on nights she was sitting across from me at dinner. Called him after we'd spent the day together, laughing, talking, being a couple. The rage inside me burned hotter. She had called him after our anniversary. The night I took her to the expensive restaurant she had been dying to try. The night I gave her a gift I spent weeks picking out. The night I told her how much she meant to me. That same night, she had called him. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. I had to be smart about this. I needed more. The social media trail. I scrolled through her Instagram next. Emily had always been careful about what she posted. Too careful. I never really noticed it before, but now I saw the patterns. The subtle clues. She posted photos every Wednesday, always alone. A book next to a cup of tea, a blurry sunset, some random, meaningless aesthetic shot. Something to make it seem like she was by herself. I checked her tag posts. Nothing. I checked her followers. And then I found him. Daniel Montgomery. His account wasn't private. His profile picture was a simple headshot. Nothing flashy, nothing suggestive. His feed was just as careful as Emily's. Gym photos, business meetings, the occasional shot of a vacation, always alone. But there was something off. Emily never liked his posts, never commented, nothing that would raise suspicion, which meant she was hiding it. I scrolled deeper, and then there it was, a photo from months ago, a wellness retreat at a spa in another city. In the background, Emily. Her face was barely visible, but I knew it was her. The same jacket, the same damn scarf I had bought her for Christmas. She was smiling, laughing, in a place she had never told me she went. With him, setting the trap. I exhaled slowly, closing my laptop. I had enough. I could confront her now. I could destroy her with just these pieces. But that wasn't enough for me. I didn't just want her to confess. I wanted to watch the realization hit her. The horror when she realized how deep of a hole she had dug for herself. So I waited. I acted normal. I smiled when she got home, kissed her cheek, ate dinner like I didn't know every bite tasted like betrayal. And then I laid the bait. You know, I said casually as she scrolled through her phone, I was thinking about getting us a couple's massage. She looked up, eyebrows raised. Really? Yeah. I leaned back, taking a sip of my drink. Figured since you love that spa so much, maybe we could go together next Wednesday. Her fingers tightened around her glass. It was barely noticeable, just the smallest hesitation before she forced a smile. That's sweet, but Wednesdays are usually when I get my deep tissue work. It's not really relaxing, you know? I don't mind, I said smoothly. I can just book with Elias again. She swallowed. I saw her throat bob. I was breaking through. Or I continued, tilting my head. We could make a day of it. Get lunch after. Maybe even stay at that wellness retreat you went to a while back. The color drained from her face. She set her drink down carefully. What retreat? I smiled. Slowly. The one you went to with Daniel. Her breath hitched, and there it was. The moment of pure, undeniable panic. She knew. She knew I had caught her. The crumbling begins. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I let the silence stretch between us, watching her process just how screwed she was. Her eyes darted away for a fraction of a second, like she was searching for an escape. Then she forced out a nervous laugh. I don't know what you're talking about. I leaned forward, resting my arms on the table. Sure you do. She shook her head quickly, but I saw it. The shake of her hands. The way she couldn't meet my eyes. I tilted my phone screen toward her. The photo. Her face went pale. That's you, isn't it? I asked, my voice too calm. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I cocked my head. Go on. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She was caught. Red-handed. Lies weren't going to save her now. And I wasn't going to let her weasel her way out of this. I stood up, sliding my chair back slowly. Her eyes flicked to me, desperate now. Babe, I held up a hand. I wasn't her babe anymore. I wasn't her fool. I turned and walked toward the bedroom, ignoring her calling after me, her voice shaky and uneven. She wasn't getting out of this. Not this time, because when I walked back out, I was going to make sure she knew her perfect little lie was over. I stood in the bedroom, gripping the dresser so hard my fingers ached. I could still hear Emily's voice from the other room. Soft, uncertain, desperate. She was scrambling, trying to figure out how to spin this, how to turn the situation in her favor. But she couldn't. Not this time. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This was it, the moment I had been building toward. No more suspicion. No more unanswered questions. No more second-guessing. She had lied. She had betrayed me. And now, she was going to face the consequences. The confrontation. I walked back into the dining room, moving slowly, deliberately. Emily stood near the table, her hands clenched at her sides. She looked small now, her usual confidence stripped away, her carefully constructed facade crumbling right in front of me. I pulled out my phone again, unlocking it with a single swipe. The photo from Daniel's social media stared back at me. The spa retreat, her in the background, laughing, wearing the scarf I had given her. I turned the screen toward her. Last chance, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Who is he? Her breath came out shaky. She glanced at the screen, then at me, then away. A moment passed, then another, and then she lied. He's just a friend. I actually laughed. A short, bitter sound. A friend, I repeated. A friend you've been calling for months? A friend you meet at the spa every week. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I didn't let up. You know what's funny? I said, tilting my head. I asked you once if you always went alone. You looked me right in the eye and said yes. Didn't even hesitate. She swallowed hard. I didn't think it mattered. My stomach burned with rage. She was still doing it. Even now, with the truth staring her in the face, she was still trying to manipulate me. Didn't matter? My voice rose slightly. You've been lying to me for months. Sneaking around behind my back. Calling this guy at night. Spending hours with him while pretending you were just getting a massage. And you're seriously standing there telling me it didn't matter? Her eyes shone with unshed tears. It wasn't like that. I stepped closer, forcing her to meet my gaze. I wanted to see the guilt, the shame, the fear. Then tell me, I said, my voice ice cold. What was it like? She hesitated. For the first time, she really hesitated. And that's when I knew she had nothing left. No more excuses. No more lies that would hold up. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Then, finally, I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered. The words punched the air out of my lungs. Not because I was shocked. I had already known. But because hearing her admit it made it real in a way nothing else could. My grip on the phone tightened. I wanted to throw it, smash it, break something, anything just to release the anger burning inside me. But I didn't, because I wasn't done yet. The death of our marriage. I exhaled slowly, forcing the rage back down. You didn't mean for it to happen? I repeated, shaking my head. That's the best you've got. She bit her lip, looking down at the floor like some guilty teenager caught sneaking out. I swear, she said softly. It wasn't planned. I met him at the spa, and we got close. It wasn't supposed to be anything, but then it just... I held up a hand, cutting her off. Don't. Just don't. She flinched. I don't want to hear how it just happened, I said. I don't want to hear how you didn't mean it. I gestured toward the phone. This wasn't an accident, Emily. This was a choice. Over and over again. She shook her head frantically, stepping closer, reaching for my arm. Please, she whispered. Let's just talk about this, okay? We can fix this. I stepped back, avoiding her touch like it was poison. Fix this? There was nothing left to fix. For months, she had been sneaking around, meeting him lying to my face, and now she wanted to talk? I clenched my jaw. How long? She hesitated again. I hated that she had to think about it, that she had to go through the timeline in her head, because it had been going on for so long that she couldn't answer immediately. 6 months, she finally whispered. 6 months. I stared at her, the woman I had built a life with, the woman I had trusted, loved, fought for. And now, I didn't even recognize her. I let the silence stretch between us, watching her shift under the weight of it. Then I nodded once, stepping toward the hallway. She stiffened. Where are you going? To pack, I said simply. Panic flared across her face. Wait, you're leaving. I turned, staring at her like she had lost her damn mind. What did you think was going to happen, Emily? I asked, my voice sharp. That I'd just get mad, we'd cry a little, and then we'd go to bed like nothing happened? She didn't answer, because that's exactly what she had been hoping for. That I'd just forgive her, that I'd let her gaslight me into staying. But I wasn't that man. Not anymore. I turned back and walked down the hall. She followed, her footsteps frantic behind me. Wait, please. We can work through this. I grabbed my suitcase and yanked it open. There's no we anymore. She let out a small sob, covering her mouth with her hand. I love you. I froze. Then I slowly turned my head, meeting her tear-filled gaze. No, I said, my voice hard. You don't. Because if she had, she wouldn't have done this. Love wasn't sneaking around behind your husband's back. Love wasn't lying with a straight face. Love wasn't choosing someone else, over and over again. I shoved the last of my clothes into the suitcase and zipped it shut. She grabbed my arm, her grip weak. Please, she begged. I pulled away. You made your choice, Emily. Her breath hitched. And with that, I walked out of the bedroom, down the hall, past the kitchen, toward the front door. She didn't follow this time. She just stood there, staring as I reached for the handle. I hesitated for 1 second. Then I opened the door and stepped outside. And just like that, I was done.